What if the places you loved hanging out became the places God could use you? Hey, I'm Pastor Matt here with your Missionary Pathway Mission Insight. And this insight comes from personal experience. And if you enjoy these missional insights, take an opportunity, click like, subscribe, share it out with somebody else that would enjoy this insight. And if you want to, become a Kairos Catalyst. As a Kairos Catalyst, you help make mission insights like this and other great training resources possible. So to become a Kairos Catalyst, check out thekairosnetwork.com/give. And so what would it look like if the places you enjoyed hanging out became the places God could use you? See, I think it begins with a really simple understanding of realizing that God works outside the four walls of the church. Man, some of the best spiritual conversations I've had and some of the coolest discipling moments, they happened outside the four walls of the church when I was just out hanging out with people, in relationship with people, not even sometimes intending to have a spiritual conversation or a discipling moment. I remember recently I got to hang out with some friends that were disconnected from church, and they've been just good friends over a long period of time. And so we decided to catch up at a brewery. And so we're hanging out at the brewery for like 5 hours. But what was amazing to me is that in that time, we actually got to have a really deep conversation about who Jesus is and what Jesus actually looks like and how God works and how Jesus comes to us. It's crazy. It was almost like a conversation you would have in a basics of the faith class. But the reality is we weren't at a basics of the faith class. We were at a brewery. So why does a conversation like that happen? And how can that happen? Well, I think there's a few keys to understanding how you can have conversations like that in the places you're already going and the places you enjoy being. And the first is this: meet people where they are. You know, instead of trying to always pull people into church before you have spiritual conversations, go to the places where people are the most comfortable. When you're hanging out in a space that people enjoy being, people tend to be more relaxed, more comfortable. And when you're in natural relationship with somebody around something that's not church, all of a sudden you realize you can build the depth of relationship that allows you to have some of those deeper conversations with people. And so those spaces can actually become spaces where really fruitful spiritual conversation and discipleship happens. So don't always feel like you have to pull people into church to have spiritual conversations. Start learning how to have those conversations where people are already going, and you will find that more often than not, through those conversations, people will eventually start joining you at church. But the conversations don't begin in the church, they begin outside the church. And so what's a way you can do that? Use what you love to engage with people. Engage in the hobbies you enjoy doing, the activities you enjoy spending time with people in, or just the things you're already going to be doing. You know, so often, like, I'll spend my week taking my kids to different sports events or different activities they have. You know, those are great spaces to build authentic relationship with people. And in those authentic relationships, you'll be amazed the conversations that come out. And so those are perfect places to be able to have spiritual conversations, because as you build authentic relationship and as you build relationship over time, people are more willing, as I said, to talk about some of those deeper spiritual things. And you'll be amazed at how often those conversations can come up. Next, be relational first. You know, it's really important when we're sharing the gospel or when we're having spiritual conversations, not to see it as like a pyramid scheme style thing where we're just looking at the person, and if they don't come to faith, if they don't agree with the things that we believe in, then we're out. No, we need to start with authentic relationship. See, people need to understand that you care about them before they're going to care about what you care about. And so care about the people around you. And it's through those authentic relationships that God creates some connection points. It might happen in a short time. It might happen over a long time. You may see somebody come to faith quickly. You may never see them come to faith. But the importance is that you love them the way Jesus loves them, as they are. So use what you love. Engage in hobbies you enjoy, because it creates natural connection points with people that allow you to build relationship. And when you're building that authentic relationship, well, that allows you to be able to share the gospel. But as you're sharing that gospel, remember to be relational first. An important part about building authentic relationship is a vehicle for sharing the gospel, but don't turn that gospel into some transactional thing that if people don't connect with that gospel or they don't agree with what you believe in, that you're out. Otherwise, that makes people feel like you're only in it to see them get connected to Jesus instead of loving them where they are as Jesus did. Jesus loved people where they are. And then when he changed people through his story, then their lives began to change. And so our job is to simply do that first part that Jesus does, to love people where they are, to share the gospel in the moments we have opportunities to share the gospel, and just to continue loving them regardless of their response to the gospel. And finally, contextualize your approach. What does this mean? Well, to be contextual means that you speak a language that people understand. So if you're at the brewery, I'm not all of a sudden going to break into a sermon, stand up on top of a box, have everybody sit down, do a 30-minute sermon, and then say, what did you think about that? No, I'm going to have a natural conversation the way I would have a conversation at the brewery. See, we need to contextualize our ministry approach. So don't turn the brewery into a Bible class if it's not the space for a Bible class, but just be willing to have those spiritual conversations when they come. And if you want, you can even turn the brewery into a place for discipleship. You just simply need to use a different Bible study method. Like instead of doing a sermon or breaking people down and having a whiteboard in front of you, you could just sit down and do a discovery Bible study together. Make sure you contextualize your approach when you're trying to share the gospel. That last point has a lot to it, and I know we can go into more detail, and we probably will in future Mission Insights. But for now, I hope this was a blessing to you. If you'd like to learn more about how you can be present and intentional where you're already going, check out the Missionary Pathway. The Missionary Pathway is an incredible resource that will teach you how to share the gospel and make disciples where you live, work, learn, and play. And so if you'd like to check that out, you can check it out on thekairosnetwork.com. And it's a great resource to learn how to share that. So until next time, it's a joy hanging out with you right here on Mission Insights.